I'm forcing myself to do this. I'm exhausted. I'm really cold. And I'm really at a loss as to what to do next. This is a temporary sample of how I feel right now. So, I've been here before. It's a feeling of worthlessness, of thinking I'm just not good enough, that the time has passed me by. Funny thing is, I felt this way even in my mid-20s, yeah. In fact, there was a point just before Chimera in the winter of 84 that I felt this way. So it's not a new feeling. And so I have to recognize that it's not me. This is not who I am. And I am more than how I feel right now. And of course there are moments where I feel fantastic. And I need to summon up the drive, if not the will, the sheer bloody mindedness just to do the next thing. Yesterday I managed to make some progress, so I'll share that with you in a moment. Before I made the progress, I distracted myself by creating some interesting classes, one to handle energy and the management of energy, and one that was what I call a quantized gradient class. What's one of those, and what's the point? Well, computers are good now at handling floating point values. When I started, they weren't. You had 8-bit integers, and if you put a couple of 8-bit integers together, you had a 16-bit integer, but it was slower to handle. And of course you had 16-bit address spaces, which is not very much. It's 64K. Yes, 64K of RAM, not all of which you had access to. Now you can have a 32-bit float, and if you really want, you can have a 64-bit double and store whatever you want. The precision is, of course, another thing entirely. But lots of modern code represents values in a floating point form, usually normalized between 0 and 1. Human beings, on the other hand, tend to handle discrete values better. So, for example, what does a health of 60 mean? Or 0.6 in the case of how we represent things internally. It means okay. So there's a conversion process going on. We have conventions for this kind of thing, of course. We have health bars. But that's not how we communicate with one another. It might be a good way to have information on a HUD, but really we're better at handling discrete values. So the quantized gradient is a class that, given a value, a floating point value, you can create a list of pairs. It's not, strictly speaking, a dictionary, it's an array. And the key to this dictionary is the value 0 to 1, and it's an ascending list, and the value of the pair in this ordered array is whatever you want it to be. So it's a generic type. So for example, I could have a structure as a value or a class, and that class could have a color and a name. So for example, I could have the key 0, and then I could have the value would be a class that holds dead or empty and the color red. And you can have a few entries like that going all the way up to 1.0, and then given a value, the class will return the value for whatever the key is that corresponds to that value. And that way you get a discrete output from what is ostensibly a continuous variable. What a waste of time. I mean, why did I do that? Felt good, and the output was nice, but it didn't add anything to the game. So I decided to listen to Erland, who's been really good at keeping me on the straight and narrow. And he urged me just to write really awful code and just do something, anything. And so I've got a simple target set up, and the target has got a radial countdown timer and a little light, and you have to walk towards it, and if you walk towards it in time, the game recognizes it, and that's that. Very simple, but it's the very beginning of what will be the AI training system. You have to train your spaceman robot, whatever it is. We never really knew in the original Chimera, and I still don't know now. Or maybe I do and I'm not telling. So that's where I'm at now, and now I've got to make a decision on what to do next, and it should be the simplest possible thing. So I don't know what that's going to be, but I guess I'll tell you about it in the next video. For now, I'm hoping the next update will be more lively. But I've got my bag of tricks to get me moving again, and I will dive into my bag of tricks and see what I can find that gets me moving again.